Congratulations! You have your 2-year green card. But you know you're not done with US immigration yet. So let's talk about the I-751 filing and some of the procedural issues thereafter that you should be aware of. Hi, I'm SohYoon Atac. I'm an attorney and one of the founders of Adam Law Group. We plan to release weekly videos about the law starting with immigration, and if this interests you, please subscribe. The requirement to file the I-751 petition to remove conditions on residence applies to any new marriage. So a marriage that is less than 2 years old at the time you received your green card. So that would be the day your adjustment of status application was approved or the day you entered with a valid immigrant visa. And this exists because of marriage fraud. Unfortunately, people engage in a fraudulent marriage or a fake immigration marriage just to get a green card. So the government decided it wants to look in on you 2 years later to see, are you still married? Are you still living together, hopefully? Now, this doesn't mean that all is lost if your marriage isn't going well or it's terminated. There are certain grounds for a waiver to this joint filing requirement. But we'll cover that in a separate video. And for this, we'll focus on the joint filing, which means you and your spouse are signing and filing this together. The timing of the I-751 filing is incredibly important. You must make that filing in the 90-day period prior to the expiration of your 2-year green card. So look at your green card, know the expiration date so that you know clearly what the deadline is. And then don't cut it too close because it can't just be postmarked. You want to make sure that it's received and accepted by USCIS before that deadline. Now, as to the time of when you can first start filing, you would take it back from that expiration date, back 90 days. Now, don't just wing it. Actually count the days, use a date calculator, but be really clear on what that filing window is. And I would actually say don't cut it too close on the starting of the filing period either, because even if you're too early by 1 day, it will be rejected. And the issue is when USCIS rejects a petition package, you don't hear about it right away. It can in fact take weeks and weeks. So by the time you hear back, you might feel the pressure to scramble and make sure it gets filed again and be nervous as to whether it be accepted or not. So I recommend not cutting it too close to either end, but to make sure that you get it in on time. Now, there are times that USCIS will accept a late filing, but you don't want to be in that situation. And we'll probably cover that in a different video, but don't be in that situation and make sure you get the filing in on time. To this end, USCIS does send out a reminder notice, and you're supposed to keep your address updated anyway. But for this reason also, you should really keep your address updated so that you get this notice. Now, by the way, if you don't ever get a USCIS reminder notice, that is not an excuse, a valid excuse for a late filing, because they consider it just a courtesy reminder. Please be collecting relationship evidence because together with the Form I-751, you will definitely need to file supporting evidence. This is similar to what you did for the adjustment of status or the immigrant visa process. You want to show that you have been and are living together. So that would include documents or evidence like a joint lease or a mortgage or deed, along with utility bills, for example. You also want to show the commingling of finances. That's a really big one. So for that, it could be joint bank statements, statements of other shared assets and liabilities, such as investments or loans, things like that. You also want other evidence showing a life that you're spending together. So that could be evidence about trips or events, that you're out in society as a married couple. It could be communications between you. So records of phone or text records, for example. And of course, if this applies, documentation of any children that you have together, for sure. And as you're getting closer and are getting ready to file, you would need at least 2 affidavits, so sworn statements from people that can attest to your marriage and your relationship. I'll do a separate video for sure on preparing the actual filing packet and the evidence that should go into it. But you should be collecting this evidence throughout your 2-year conditional residence period so that you are prepared. So once the I-751 is properly filed, what happens and what are some issues? First of all, you will receive the receipt notice from USCIS that says, this hereby extends your expired green card by 2 years. We've been doing this long enough, so I remember when the standard receipt notice for the I-751 only granted a 1-year extension. But then immigration was like, oh, we're taking longer than a year to adjudicate these I-751s. So then they changed it to 18 months, so a year and a half. But then most recently they realized, oh, we're taking longer than that. So now the I-751 receipt notices grant 2-year extensions past the expiration date of your 2-year green card. By the way, USCIS has been reissuing receipt notices to conditional residents who initially received that 18-month extension only. So our conditional resident clients from both the marriage side as well as the EB-5 investor side who received the 18-month extension have been getting new receipt notices that are giving them the full 2-year extension. The combination of this receipt notice and your expired green card together serves as evidence of your current resident status, at least for the 2 years that it grants. So hopefully this will not be an issue for you, but what happens if the 2-year extension passes and you need proof of your resident status? Well, then you need to go get what we call an I-551 stamp. So this stamp, and it'll have an expiration date until it expires, then serves as evidence of your current resident status. So you would need this if you need proof of your status, such as for international travel where you go abroad and you need to get back into the United States. Or maybe you need it for to document your status for work purposes, or maybe you need to get a driver's license. Whatever it is, if you need to show your resident status and this is past the 2-year extension that the receipt notice grants, then you must go get this I-551 stamp. And you do this by making an InfoPass appointment with a USCIS district office. During the pandemic, at the beginning especially, getting this InfoPass appointment was quite an issue, but it seems to be going better now. So you should be able to make an InfoPass appointment to get this, the proof of your current resident status. A last point that I want to share with you is that a approved I-751 is actually not required for you to file for U.S. citizenship, the N-400 application for naturalization. If you desire U.S. citizenship and you qualify, then go right ahead and file it, even if your I-751 is still pending with USCIS. A potential benefit of doing this is that because USCIS cannot adjudicate your citizenship application, the N-400, until the I-751 is resolved, it actually has had the effect of kind of helping move some of those stuck cases along. In fact, this has worked very well for us, with the exception of one case in a Western state, but this has actually been really helpful. So, and citizenship is one of the most exciting things, at least in my opinion. So if you want to pursue it and you qualify to do so at the 3-year mark, so that would be based on marriage to a U.S. citizen. And technically, the earliest you can file is 90 days before the 3rd anniversary of your residence. So from that 3rd anniversary from that residence date. So if that is you, then you don't have to wait for USCIS to finish adjudicating the I-751. Hopefully, this gives you a better idea of some of the procedural issues around the I-751 so that you can be better prepared as you navigate U.S. immigration. If you found this helpful, please like the video and subscribe. I wish you a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks.